Hello, my dear gardening friends. This is Jackson, and I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're doing well, growing well, and staying excited about what your garden can still become this season. Now, let me say this right at the beginning, because I do not want you to miss your moment. You will deeply regret not starting these fall crops right now. Not next week. Not when the weather feels cooler. Not when summer starts fading and you finally remember your fall garden. By then, for many of you, it will already be too late to get the kind of harvest you could have had. A lot of gardeners make the same mistake every single year. They think of fall gardening too late. They treat fall like an afterthought, like it begins when summer ends. But that is not how successful fall gardening works. The best fall gardens are not started in fall. They are prepared in the heat, in the middle of busy summer, when most people are still focused on tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and all the big warm season crops. While everybody else is distracted, the smart gardener is already planning the next wave, and that next wave can be one of the most productive, beautiful, and rewarding parts of the entire year. Now, fall gardening has a different kind of magic. The pressure of summer starts easing. Many pests begin slowing down. Some crops become sweeter after light frosts. Leafy greens get more tender. Brassicas get better flavor. And your garden, instead of looking tired and overworked by late summer, suddenly gets a second life. That is what I want for you. I don't want your growing season to end early. I want it to stretch. I want you harvesting when other people think the garden is finished. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the fall crops you need to start now if you want serious results later. I'm not giving you fluff. I'm not giving you random filler. I'm giving you crops that actually matter. Crops that earn their space. Crops that can carry your garden into cooler weather, with real harvests, real value, and real satisfaction. And stay with me all the way to the end, because I'm also going to give you the biggest timing mistakes that ruin fall gardens. And if you avoid those mistakes, your success rate will jump immediately. Now let's get into it, because every day you delay matters more than most gardeners realize. The first thing you need to understand is this: fall gardening is a race against shrinking daylight. Most people only think about temperature. They think, if it's still warm, I still have time. That sounds logical, but it is incomplete. Yes, temperature matters. But sunlight matters just as much, and once the days start getting shorter, plant growth slows down. That means if your crops are too small by the time true fall arrives, they may survive, but they won't size up the way you hoped. They'll just sit there, growing slowly, barely moving, and you'll spend weeks wishing you had started sooner. That is why starting now is such a big deal. Right now, you still have enough warmth for fast germination in many crops, and you still have enough daylight to build strong young plants before cooler weather takes over. This is your opportunity window. Miss it, and you're not just delaying your harvest, you're shrinking it. So, let's begin with one of the most reliable and rewarding fall crops you can grow. Crop number 1 is kale. If I had to recommend one crop to gardeners who want toughness, consistency, nutrition, and cold tolerance all in one package, kale would be near the very top of the list. Kale is one of those crops that seems almost determined to keep producing. It handles cool weather beautifully. It keeps its structure. It keeps its color. It keeps its usefulness in the kitchen. And in many gardens, it can stand far longer into the cold than people expect. But here's where many gardeners get it wrong. They wait until the weather feels cool enough to plant kale, and by then, their plants never really establish the strong leafy growth they need. Kale needs time to develop size before the shorter days of fall begin slowing everything down. If you start it now, you give it that head start. You let it build roots in warm soil. You let it gain strength fast, and then when cool weather arrives, instead of struggling, it thrives. Another reason I love kale for fall is flavor. Heat-grown kale can sometimes be stronger and more aggressive in taste. But once the weather cools, especially after a touch of chill in the air, the flavor becomes smoother and sweeter. That means fall kale is not just easier to grow well, it often tastes better too. And from a practical point of view, kale gives you repeated harvests. You don't harvest it once and say goodbye. You come back again and again. You pick the outer leaves, let the center keep growing, and the plant keeps giving. That makes it efficient. That makes it valuable. That makes it one of the best crops for gardeners who want maximum return from limited space. If you are building a serious fall garden, kale is not optional in my opinion. It deserves a place because it performs. It can go in containers, raised beds, in-ground rows, and protected spaces. It can support beginner gardeners and experienced growers alike. And once you have a healthy patch of kale in fall, you begin to understand what a smart garden really feels like. It feels prepared. It feels resilient. It feels alive long after summer starts fading. So if kale is on your list, don't hesitate. Start it now while the conditions can still give it momentum. Crop number 2 is romaine lettuce. Now this is where a lot of gardeners can get some quick confidence back into the garden. Romaine lettuce is fast, productive, satisfying, and extremely useful. You can harvest baby leaves, partial heads, or mature crisp hearts, depending on how you grow it. And compared to the struggles that lettuce often faces in harsh summer heat, fall is where romaine really starts to shine. Cooler conditions make lettuce happier. The leaves get cleaner, crisper, and more tender. The plant is less likely to bolt as quickly. And if you time it well, you can have some of the best salads of your entire year coming straight out of your own garden. But again, timing is everything. You cannot wait until you want salad. You have to think ahead. Romaine may feel quick compared to larger brassicas, but if you want beautiful full heads in fall, start now. Give it enough time to germinate, establish, and size up while growing conditions are still on your side. One of the biggest emotional rewards of growing romaine in the fall is that it brings freshness back to the kitchen at exactly the right time. Late in the season, when some summer crops are becoming tired and messy, romaine gives you something clean, bright, and dependable. There's something powerful about walking outside in cool weather and cutting your own lettuce while other people think the harvest season is ending. And let's be honest, good romaine from the garden is not the same as what most people buy in stores. Garden romaine has more life in it, more flavor, better texture, a richer feeling when you eat it, because it actually came from your own soil and your own effort. If you want a fall crop that gives quick gratification and real usefulness, romaine belongs in your plan. It doesn't need drama. It doesn't need hype. It simply does what it's supposed to do when you start it on time. And that is exactly why it matters. So if you have been thinking about leafy greens for fall, don't make the mistake of only thinking about spinach. Romaine should be on your radar too, and it should be started now. Crop number 3 is cabbage. Cabbage is one of those crops that makes your garden look serious. A healthy cabbage planting says you planned ahead. It says you understand seasons. It says you're not just chasing quick harvests, you're building substance into your garden. Now, cabbage is not always the easiest crop for impatient gardeners, because it asks for foresight. It wants time. It wants development. It wants enough growing runway to build those dense, heavy heads before winter pressure starts slowing the whole system down. But if you respect that timing, cabbage can reward you in a big way. Fall-grown cabbage often has better texture and better eating quality than cabbage that struggles through heat. In cooler weather, it can form more steadily with less stress. And once those heads begin tightening up, the garden starts looking rich. It starts looking abundant. Cabbage is also versatile in a way many gardeners underestimate. It is not just one thing. It can become slaw, stir-fry, soup, fermented foods, roasted sides, wraps, stews, and storage food. So when you give space to cabbage, you're not just growing a crop, you're growing options. The mistake people make is thinking, I'll wait until it cools off because cabbage likes cool weather. That sounds sensible, but it ignores the growth curve. Yes, cabbage enjoys the cooler finish, but it still needs time to get there. If you delay the start, the finish never becomes impressive. And let me say this clearly. A weak fall cabbage plant is usually the result of a late decision, not bad luck. A lot of gardening disappointment starts long before the disappointment becomes visible. The failure begins when you postpone. The tiny daily delays don't feel dangerous in the moment, but weeks later they show up as undersized plants and unrealized harvests. So if you want solid, full, satisfying heads of cabbage later, the move is simple. Start now. Let the plant establish while there is still enough warmth and length in the day to push growth. Then let cooler weather help you finish strong. Crop number 4 is broccoli. This is one of the crops people get most excited about in a fall garden, and for good reason. Good broccoli feels like a gardening victory. When you harvest a beautiful, tight central head that you grew yourself, it feels worth the effort immediately. But broccoli is also one of the crops that punishes bad timing more than people expect. Broccoli wants a smart schedule. It does not want you guessing. It does not want you treating fall gardening casually. If you start too late, it may never size properly before growth slows. If you expose it to the wrong conditions at the wrong stage, you can end up with stress, poor head formation, or disappointing results. That is why starting now matters so much. Broccoli needs a running start. It needs enough time to build a sturdy plant before it reaches the stage where it begins forming heads. If you give it that foundation, fall can be an excellent season for it. Cooler weather often improves quality, and you avoid some of the worst summer stress that makes broccoli frustrating in hot periods. Another reason broccoli deserves attention is that it offers more than just the main head. In many cases, after you cut that central head, the plant continues producing side shoots. That means the harvest extends. It keeps giving you smaller follow-up cuts, and when that happens, one planting starts feeling far more productive than people expected. Broccoli also carries psychological value in the garden. It gives you that sense that your fall garden is not just decorative or experimental. It is substantial. It is food-producing in a serious way. It is not there just to fill space. It is there to deliver. But because broccoli matters, you cannot be lazy with it. This is not the crop to leave for later. This is not the crop to remember after your summer garden burns you out. You start broccoli while you still have energy, while the season still has power, and while your timing can still work for you instead of against you. If you've ever said, "My broccoli never really does well," I want you to consider this possibility. Maybe it wasn't your skill. Maybe it was your calendar. In gardening, timing often looks like talent from the outside. The gardener who seems lucky is often just the gardener who moved at the right moment. So move now. That is how you give broccoli a fair chance to be excellent. Crop number 5 is cauliflower. Cauliflower has a reputation. A lot of gardeners see it as difficult, fussy, and not worth the trouble. And yes, cauliflower can absolutely humble you if the timing is wrong or the plant gets stressed. But when you get it right, it is one of the most satisfying cool season crops you can grow. There is something special about seeing those heads begin to form. It feels almost elegant. It feels like the garden is producing something refined. And when you harvest a clean, well-developed cauliflower head that you started at the right time, it does not feel ordinary. It feels earned. What cauliflower needs from you is commitment at the beginning. It needs you to act early enough that the plant can establish a strong frame before the days shorten too much. It needs enough momentum so that when the cooler weather arrives, the plant is ready to convert that season into quality. This is where patient gardeners win. They understand that cauliflower is not a crop you start emotionally when the mood feels right. It is a crop you start strategically. You begin while others are waiting. You begin before your instincts tell you it's time. And that is exactly why you get results while others are left wondering what went wrong. Cauliflower also gives you value beyond the classic white head. Depending on what you grow, it can bring color, visual beauty, and variety into the fall garden. But even if you stick with traditional types, the appeal is still strong, because this is a crop that feels premium on the table. Roasted, mashed, grilled, curried, baked, or turned into soups, cauliflower brings real utility to your kitchen. And because it is often considered harder, it can become a confidence crop too. When you succeed with cauliflower, you stop feeling like someone who just grows easy things. You begin to feel like a gardener who understands timing, planning, and execution. So yes, cauliflower asks for attention, but that is exactly why starting it now matters. Give it the head start it needs, and you'll be glad you did when the season turns. Crop number 6 is spinach. Now let's talk about one of the true stars of cool season gardening. Spinach is a crop that many people love to eat, but not everyone grows well, especially when they think about it too late or try to force it at the wrong moment. But for fall, spinach can be incredible. Spinach loves the direction the season is heading. It likes the cool down, it likes the calmer weather. It can become one of the most rewarding leafy crops in the entire garden if you work with its preferences instead of against them. And here is what makes spinach especially valuable. It is practical. It works in salads, sautés, soups, eggs, smoothies, pasta, rice dishes, and quick side dishes. It is one of those crops that does not sit in your kitchen waiting for inspiration. You use it. Again. But spinach also teaches an important lesson in gardening. The best seasonal crop is not always the one you start when conditions are ideal for the mature plant. It is the one you start early enough to use the remaining strength of the season. That's why starting now matters. You want enough time for establishment. You want those roots anchoring in. You want the plant entering cooler conditions with confidence, not just barely beginning. And once spinach is happy, it can really produce. You can harvest individual leaves. You can do cut-and-come-again harvests. You can stagger your sowings for extended use. If you protect it, in some gardens, it can carry surprisingly far. The emotional beauty of spinach in fall is that it restores freshness to your meals just when summer abundance starts changing character. Tomatoes and peppers may still be around, but the feel of the kitchen starts shifting. Spinach fits that shift perfectly. It brings the garden from hot season energy into a cooler, steadier rhythm. If you want a crop that is useful, respected, nutrient-dense, and deeply connected to the spirit of fall gardening, spinach is one you should not ignore. Start it while the window is still open, and you'll thank yourself later. Crop number 7 is carrots. Yes, carrots. And I want to include carrots because too many gardeners forget how magical fall carrots can be. Summer carrots can be good, but fall carrots often feel better. The flavor can become sweeter, the texture can improve. And there is something deeply satisfying about pulling bright roots from cool soil when the air starts changing. Now, carrots are not a transplant crop like some of the others we've talked about. They are direct sown. But the principle is still the same. If you wait too long, you cut down your result. Roots need time. They need enough growing days to size up before the slowdown gets too strong. Carrots also reward consistency. Once they germinate and establish, you are building toward a harvest that feels clean, crisp, and real. This is not decorative gardening. This is food gardening in its purest form. Root in the ground, patience above, reward below. And let's talk about kitchen value for a second. Carrots can go almost anywhere. Fresh eating, roasting, soups, stocks, stews, side dishes, meal prep, snacks, juicing. They belong in a serious edible garden because they fit real life. What makes fall carrots so compelling is that they align with the season emotionally and practically. They feel right in autumn cooking. They fit the harvest mood. And if your goal is to keep your garden productive in a meaningful way, carrots deserve some of your attention. So don't just think leafy greens and brassicas. Think roots too. Think beyond the obvious. Think about the crops that make your fall garden feel complete. Now, before I close, I want to give you the biggest mistakes that can ruin everything we just talked about. The first mistake is waiting for cooler weather to begin. That sounds harmless, but it is one of the most damaging habits in fall gardening. Cooler weather is the reward phase, not the starting phase. If you wait for the reward phase to begin the work, you are already behind. The second mistake is only thinking about frost dates and not daylight loss. Frost matters, yes, but reduced light is what quietly slows the garden before many people realize it. Your crops need enough maturity before that slowdown begins. The third mistake is starting too little because you are uncertain. I understand wanting to play it safe, but small, uncertain attempts often lead to small, disappointing harvests. If a crop matters to your kitchen and your season, give it a proper chance. Be intentional. The fourth mistake is treating fall gardening like backup gardening. Fall is not second-class gardening. It is not just what you do after summer. In many ways, it can be smarter, calmer, and more productive than the hottest part of the year. Respect it, and it will reward you. And the fifth mistake is losing energy mentally before the season is actually over. This one is huge. A lot of gardeners stop before the garden stops. They are mentally finished, so they stop sowing, stop planning, stop refreshing beds, and stop creating opportunity. But the garden still has time left. The season still has potential left. The question is whether you are willing to act on it. So here is my message to you today. Do not let late summer trick you into thinking the story is almost over. For a smart gardener, this is a turning point, not an ending. This is where the next harvest begins. This is where foresight separates frustration from abundance. If you start these fall crops now, kale, romaine lettuce, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, and carrots, you are not just planting seeds. You are extending your season. You are protecting your future harvest. You are setting yourself up for cooler days, better flavor, steadier production, and a garden that keeps giving long after others have quit. And if you do nothing, if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, if you tell yourself you still have plenty of time, There is a very good chance you will look back a few weeks from now and realize the window closed faster than you expected. That is the regret I want to save you from. So take action today. Pick your crops, prepare your space, start your seeds, direct sow what needs to be sown. Give your garden its second season before the first one slips away. My dear friends, this is Jackson, and I truly believe that some of the best gardening decisions are the ones made just before everyone else realizes they should have made them too. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope this message helped you, encouraged you, and gave you the push you needed to build a stronger fall garden. If you stay consistent now, your future self is going to be so grateful. Keep growing, keep learning, keep planting with purpose, and keep believing that your garden still has so much more to give. Take care, happy gardening, and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye, and God bless.